Hey Harbor fam, hope you guys are all having an awesome morning. We are so excited to be with you guys today. And so we're gonna worship, we're gonna get into our new series, In My Shoes. So if you wouldn't mind just praying with me real quick. Father, we just thank you so much for this awesome time that we just get to worship you, Jesus. Lord, we thank you so much for your presence, God, and we just thank you so much for your sovereignty, God. Let you be in our living rooms this morning. In your mighty name we pray, amen.
Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, most beautiful. Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, most beautiful. And one thing I desire, only this I seek, is to dwell, dwell, dwell here forever. Oh, this will be my posture, laying at your feet, just to dwell, dwell, dwell here forever. Dearest Father, dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, most beautiful you are. Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, most beautiful. And one thing I desire, oh, only this I seek, is to dwell, dwell, dwell here forever. Oh, this will be my posture, is laying at your feet, just to dwell, dwell, dwell here forever. Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, most beautiful you are. Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, most beautiful. There's nobody like you, Lord, in all the earth. We exalt your beauty, Jesus. There are no words, there's nothing left. Our love will sing to you. Oh, there are no words, there's nothing left. Our love will sing to you. Oh, there are no words, there's nothing left. Oh, our love will sing to you. And oh, there are no words, there's nothing left. Our love will sing to you. Oh, yeah. We're so in love with you, Jesus. Nobody else will run to, no one else will turn to. In these times, God, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. captivated. No, I'll never be the same. With just one look, everything changes. I'm captivated. No, I'll never be the same. With just one look, everything changes. Oh, I'm captivated. No, I'll never be the same. I'm so in love with you. You're beautiful, so beautiful. I fix my eyes, I'll fix my eyes on you. You're beautiful, so beautiful. Sing, I'm so in love with you, yeah. I'm so in love with you. You're beautiful, so beautiful. Hey. I'll fix my eyes on you. Oh, you're beautiful, so beautiful. Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, most beautiful. Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, most beautiful. You're beautiful, so beautiful. We fix our eyes on you, Jesus. I'll fix my eyes on you. You're beautiful, you're so beautiful. Yeah. You're the only one we turn to. You're the only one we look to. Ooh, with just one look, everything changes. I'm captivated. I'll never be the same. With just one look, it's all it takes. Everything changes. I'm captivated. Oh, I'll never be the same. Yeah.
Man, that was such an awesome time of worship. But before we get into the word, we just have a few quick announcements to go over with you all. Church, we are just so thankful for your faithfulness and your generosity. It has been so encouraging to see. And it's because of your generosity and your giving that we're able to continue to do what we do every single week. So there's two different ways to give. You can either give online or on the app. We just want to encourage you to do that. We are so excited to begin our new series, In My Shoes. We believe that this is a timely word and that this series is going to be incredibly impactful for everyone. So now I'm going to pass it off to Pastor Scott.
Church, I want to thank you so much for joining us for week 1 of our summer series, In My Shoes. This morning is going to look a little bit different than what we normally do. We're going to have a conversation this morning with some valued members from our church congregation, from our community, and we're going to be talking about the issue of racism. Jesus says that we should weep with those who weep and we should mourn with those who mourn. Proverbs actually says that the fool is the person who thinks they know it all, but we can actually learn so much from others. So we're going to put that into practice this morning. I want to encourage you that as you watch this is an honest, an open, and a real conversation. This wasn't rehearsed. This wasn't practiced. So we're going to do our best to represent Christ well and to be brothers and sisters that listen to one another. I also want to make it clear that because we're talking about the issue of racism, that doesn't mean that we are anti-police officer. We have so many amazing police officers that call our church home, that are men and women of integrity and character who I know personally are just as outraged about racism as anyone else. But with that being said, some of these stories that you are about to hear do involve law enforcement, but we are speaking to an issue. We're not speaking out against police officers in particular or against politics. We are speaking out about the issue of racism, an issue that we believe is a sin issue, an issue that we want to be a catalyst for change for. We want to see racism wiped out. And we believe that this is a moment in history where the church can stand up and represent Christ's love for one another, and we can stand up and speak up for what we believe. So I want to encourage you to do something this morning. I don't know what your upbringing has been. I don't know what your past experience has been. But I want to ask you if you could take a few minutes and to put any assumptions, any preconceived ideas, even any experience to the side for just a moment, and just to open your heart and your mind to listen to what some of our brothers and sisters are about to share with us. Would you mind praying with me real quick as we get started? Jesus, we thank you so much for who you are. God, I thank you that when we don't know what to do, when we don't know what to say, God, you give us truth. God, I thank you that your love never quits on us. Lord, I thank you that you are a God who has created humanity, who has created different people and groups and races. And God, I thank you that we are all equal in your eyes. I pray that this morning there would come clarity from our conversation. God, I pray, Lord, that our heart would mimic yours, God, that we would love each other like you have loved us. Jesus, be with these next few minutes. We love you so much. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming in this morning and sitting down and having a conversation. I know the last few weeks and last month has not been easy, and we have just been so looking forward to being able to sit down and talk with you guys, and we love you all so much. For those of you guys who might not know everyone we have here, Jordan has been with us since 7th grade.
Yeah,
Been coming to our church.
Yeah.
Coming up through youth group, and has been a dear friend for a lot of years, a little brother, and love him so much. And many of you know Pastor Rodney and Pastor Brittany, who got married, is it a year ago? Almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So amazing. And Rodney, how old were you when you moved here from Haiti?
I was 17. I had just turned 17.
That's awesome. And started coming to youth group, getting invited by another student, and then came on after graduated youth group and began working with us, and now has been on staff with us for 4 years, probably.
Yeah, going since 16. So yeah, about 4 years.
Time flies. Time flies. But just such an amazing couple that we have here. Marlon and his wife Maxine and his beautiful family. Marlon, you're originally from Jamaica?
Yeah.
Jamaica. And how long have you been living in the States?
Since 1987.
Okay, 1987. And you guys have been attending
About
the
14,
church?
about 14 years.
14 years. Oh, that's amazing. You got such a beautiful family. Your girls may be the sweetest kids I ever had in youth group. They are absolutely amazing.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. And Nashika, who sings on our worship team, we get to get blessed by your voice week in and week out. But also just such an amazing family. And how long have you been attending the church?
It'll be 5 years. Yeah.
So awesome. So awesome. So I just, again, I want to say thank you guys for coming in and doing this with us. And, you know, I feel like nowadays there's just division and hate and segregation everywhere that you look. Everything is discouraging, whether you're watching the news, whether you're on social media, everything is just absolutely discouraging and overwhelming. And I feel like in our culture, we have lost the art of conversation. Mm-hmm. And I believe that we have a clear biblical example of how to communicate with one another and to have conversation. And so I'm just so honored that you guys are willing to sit down and to talk this morning, and just for us to hear from you and for us to hear how you're feeling and to hear experience and what you've been through. I want to first ask you, I think many people, we're gonna talk specific to our area, to what we know as reality on Long Island. I find that a lot of people who maybe don't feel like they have a racist bone in their body, but don't have any experience with racism because they're white or maybe a different race, have a hard time believing sometimes that racism still happens here on Long Island today. I think a lot of people assume that racism is a city issue or a southern issue or a Midwest issue, just because they don't know. They have no experience with it. So I wanted to ask you guys first, as we start off, what your personal experience with racism has been, things that you have experienced personally, things that your family has experienced, things that you have go through or continue to go through. I want to just hear from you. I want to learn from you guys of what your experience with it has been.
So I'd say for me, I've had a lot of issues dealing with like law enforcement growing up. Not too many, but there was a time that I got pulled over, and I shouldn't have been driving, and that was my mistake, just me being young and dumb. But it was me, and there was 4 other black kids in the car, and we got pulled over. And he was telling me I was going over the speed limit, and we were going to the beach. And we come in, and I see a cop, and he pulls me over. So 5 minutes go by. Now there's not only one cop, there's like 6 of them there, and I was so confused. I was like, why? Like, why is there so many cops? Like, I was just like going like 20 miles over the speed limit. But of course, I knew why, because I'm not naive about it. But so it goes on, and they are just, they weren't really nice to me. They were antagonizing me. They were very like, they took me as a joke, and they were just shocked of how I was carrying myself, because I was being, I was being respectful, but I was being stern because I didn't like how they were speaking to me. And so I ended up going to court for it, and I went to court, and we were confused dealing with something with the attorney, because she had told us something different. So my mom had spoke out and said, I was talking to the judge, she spoke out and she was like, hey, I'm confused on that. And then the judge told her to stop talking. And he was like, who are you? And then she explained who she was, and she said she was like my mother or whatever. And then so then we kept going again, and then my mom interrupted again. And he said he kicked her out. And I was like, there's no reason to be disrespectful like that. And then, me and him went back and forth, and then he told me, he was like, if you say something again, I'm gonna put you in a cage. And that hurt me. It hurt me a lot, because I was like, why does it have to go to that? So of course I respond to him. I says that because I'm black. And he calmed down, and then he kind of just, simmered down, and then I had to breathe, and I was like, you know what, let me just, talk to this guy properly, because I'm about to get really upset. So then after the fact, I got out and I left, and that's something that I never experienced, because of me growing up. I grew up around a lot of like Caucasian and different, races and stuff like that. So to me, I was extremely blind to it growing up. And that was just because of that's how my mother raised me. So to see that, it hurt me, because I had never experienced that before.
I can imagine how powerless you must have felt in that moment, and with someone having so much authority doing that.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to the, being pulled over, part of it, like, I remember one time I was working overnight. I had an overnight shift that I was going to. I was, at the time, I lived in Ridge, so I had to get through Coram to get to Portjeff, because that's where I was working. And so I'm about like half hour away, and I'm just driving, but I had waves at the time, so I was just like, just got a haircut earlier that day, and I was like, I gotta keep my waves straight. So I put a do-rag on, and I was like, I'm about to do this. I have a do-rag on and a hoodie, and I'm driving a 98 Saturn, so if, I just like, I was in my zone, I was just getting ready for work. I'm on my way, and I passed this Burger King, which I pass every night because I'm going to work. And so I noticed there was a cop car right there. They were about to pull out, and so I just went past them. I don't think I was speeding or anything, So I didn't worry. I wasn't worried about it, but I saw them and they saw me because I think we kind of made eye contact. And so I kept driving, but at the same time I'm paying attention, So they got out right behind me, and then so there was like a cut through. It's almost like when I had to make a right. I made the right, but I saw them go straight. But there was a cut through, and I knew that's what they were gunning for. For some reason, I just knew like, oh wow, like this is about to go down. And so I made the right, and I got on to the road where I need to go. Pretty much like my job is right off that road, and so I got on that road, and there they came behind me, and they put their lights on, and I was like, oh, okay, we're about to do this. And it was dark because my shift started at 11, so I was like, okay, here I am, nobody's there, like it's dark, so I pulled up, and I don't get disrespectful with cops. Like I love law enforcement. I'm for them. I support them. So I didn't even think anything bad at that moment. I was very curious as to why I was being pulled over. So I lowered the window. I always turn off my car, put my keys on the dash, like just everything that I need to do. And then I put my hands on the wheels, and I waited. And so he pulled up and was like, hey, can I see your driver's license? And I said, okay, no problem. So I reached for it, gave it to him, and I said, you never told me why I was pulled over though. And he was like, well, your license plate is suspended. And I immediately just started laughing. I thought he was joking with me. And then he was like, what's so funny? And I was like, I don't think my license plate is suspended. Like I'm telling you right now, I have insurance on the car. It's not suspended. It's registered and everything. And then he went back to his car, and then after that he just spent his whole sweet time. Like I'm already late for work at that point, and it's been way past half hour. And him and the other officer that came out, he still is on the right side of my car. I'm on driver's side. So he came back out, and he handed me back my license, and I said, and he said, well, you could go and have yourself a good night. And I said, what do you mean? I thought you said my license plate was suspended. And then he said, well, I misread it. It wasn't suspended. It was actually it said something about it being surrendered. And I was like, I just started laughing again. It was like, wait, why are you still laughing? I said, I thought it was very, it was kind of funny, the fact that like you just pulled me over for pretty much no reason, because I already told you my license plate wasn't suspended. And then so we had a moment where I was just staring at him and he was staring back at me. But I was looking at his badge number and name, and then he, for some reason, got very, I don't know, offensive about it, and just kind of like stepped up to the car and was like, well, make sure you take a picture of it if you want, and then he was like, my name is this, and you could take it, and just kind of like that. And I was like, wow. And then every time I get pulled over, I always do this, where after my conversation with the officer, I put my hand out, just give a handshake. All right, thank you, have a good night. I pulled my hand out, he walked away, and I said, wow, you won't even shake my hands, huh? And he goes, well, I don't do that. And then got in his car, and he said, have a good night. I said, have a good night, sir. And I just left and went to work. That was like one of the first encounters I've had with a police officer where I was so angry about it. Just being the fact that I just got pulled over, which I knew was for no reason, because his reason wasn't valid, of course, because he came back to the car and was like, when he first told me my license plate was suspended, while it wasn't. So, and from that time on, I was like, I got to work, I was late, so, and I was like, I was the whole night, I'm working, and that's in my head, and I'm like, man, I just hope I don't get pulled over by this guy again, because, and I don't know why, in my head I was like, I have to remember this guy's face. I have to remember his face. I have to remember his face. I was so angry that like when I was praying, I was like, God, like help me not to be bitter about it. Mm-hmm. Help me not to get angry. Help me not not to think that every police officer is this way, because I know they're not. But when my encounter with a specific police officer, when my encounter went like that, I felt like, man, I was targeted, for no reason. So I did that for a long time. I talked to my friends about it. I was like, man, I don't know why I'm angry. Maybe I should be angry. But that was definitely one of the times where I was like, wow, like this is really happening. And again, it may have been something where, I don't know if it's because I was wearing the do-rag or I don't know, but I was wearing it for my waves. I wasn't wearing it because I was ghetto or anything. I just wanted my waves to look right. But that was definitely one of the times where I was very kind of like upset about being pulled over for really no reason.
Well, when I was 16, I got my first job at BJ's. That's the only place that will hire you, at 16. And I was a cashier, and there was a time, it was the summertime, because that's when all the city people come out, and it's really crowded, it gets really busy. And I'm, ringing up, this lady's stuff. And it was, I knew how much I had to give her back, like, the machine tells you, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it like this. She really quickly hands me change and was like, just give me back, the full $1. So in my mind, I'm like, wait, I gotta make sure my register's right. So I kind of took a moment to think about it, and I'm just sitting there like, okay. So she looks at me, and like eye to eye, and she says, well, people like you were meant to be cleaning houses or something. You really shouldn't handle money. I never forget that. That stuck with me, like, for the longest amount of time. And I've had other incidences being younger, but they, you just kind of brush it off. But that was something that really like upset me, and it stuck with me. And I'm like, oh, like, you're pretty much telling me I'm not worth anything. I'm not meant to be anything. And that just really like hit like hard, But I had a lot of nice people that were very mothering at the time that worked there, because I was 16, I didn't have the same thought process I have now, or the way you handle things. And I just remember like shutting off my register light, and I was like, I started like, I was crying because I was like so upset, and I was angry at the same time. I didn't quite know how to handle it, and they were just like, I just remember her saying to me, people like that, that's an ignorance, and you can't let that feed, your emotion, love is love. And that always stuck with me. Like one of the people that worked there said to me, I mean,
that'd be crushing to hear at any age, but especially even in your formative years.
Exactly.
To hear that.
It's, I was never taught to look at anybody any differently. Like I never think like that, so it was very just kind of like shocking for somebody to blatantly say it, and like she meant, like, to know they meant it, like it was just like, oh my gosh, like that's harsh,
It's disgusting.
like it's just, I was like, oh my gosh, I never had it that blatantly, like somebody tell you you're not worth anything, I was just like, wow. That's a rough,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I got a bad experience with the police, and good experience, Let me say first, the good experience, that I'm giving you the good experience, then go to the bad experience. One day my car, the heater core went, smoke, and I was on the highway, the service road, and the cop rolled up, and I'm like, oh man, and he came over and he helped me out. He took her, she was in her car seat, put her car seat in the front, I went in the back, and he took us home, left the car there, and he got it towed. So good experience with cops. But then the bad experience now, one of the bad experience, me and my wife went for a walk. We're new to the neighborhood. Just went for a stroll, get a little exercise in and stuff. And we saw the police car go by, didn't pay much attention to it. And we're just doing our talk. Next thing we know, boom, cut us off. Whoa, what happened? He got out. ID. I'm like, hey, what's the problem? ID. He said there was a robbery last night with a guy with dreads. I'm like, yo, I was at work last night. He was like, where you work? I said, I work for MTA. Give me your ID. So I took out my ID and I gave it to him. But my ID, I didn't have dreads in my ID. You know, and he was like, you ain't got any other ID? I was like, no. He was like, you sure you were at work? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I was at work. I mean, you can ask my wife is there beside me, all scared, and you know, and I'm like, you know, if you suspect me of doing a robbery last night, take me in for a lineup or something. I didn't want to go to that, but just to show that he pulled us, it was profiling for no reason.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This was just an excuse. There was a robbery last night with a guy with dreads. You know what I'm saying? My wife is all upset, and when you realize I work for TA, you know, it's like, yo, this guy's a hardworking guy. I can't, you know, play around with him. So then he just gave me back my ID and left. But, you know, not because I work for TA or whatever, gave you, you know, that's an excuse for you to let me go. You do to anybody, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, but like I said, that was one of the wake-up calls in Long Island for me. And like I said, there's been many more. One day I was driving home again. My car is tinted, it's not that dark, you know, and I'm driving on the Southern State. And trooper pulled me over. I was on the phone with my friend, got my speaker, whatever he started. I said, Joy, don't come off the phone, man. I'm gonna need you for this one. And the cop came over, two of them came on the side. I was like, hello. Like, hello. No, I'm doing the speed limit. I'm not driving fast because I'm talking to my friend. I'm paying attention, being very, you know, my license, my job. I try not to get tickets or anything, you know what I'm saying? Because I lose my license, I can't feed my family. And he came over and he saw me in my uniform. And he was like, oh, you work for TA? I said, yeah, I'm coming from work. And the one on the right hand side said, oh, can I tell how many people is in your car? And I'm like, what? I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, why you want to know how much people in my car? So this is his excuse. My tints are too dark. Like, my tint ain't dark, man. You know what I'm saying? And I got my own boy listening on, and I can hear my own boy laughing, you know. Yeah, they're trying to sucker you, you know. But, you know, just think that, and then I got my dreads and stuff. That's another, you know what I'm saying, another racial reason for them to profile me. You know, like I said, I got a lot of cop story. Not bad mouthing them. Another time, I'm driving again. Thank God for TA. I'm always in my uniform. You know what I'm saying? Wear that uniform when I'm not going to work on my days off. You know, saved me a lot because I changed lane. This is in Garden City, Nassau County. If you're black and you got a hoopty like how I drive, try not to get a flat or anything in Garden City. Yeah, I'm calling out Garden City. You know what I'm saying? Changed lane, cop pulled me over. He said, you crossed the white line. I'm like, yeah, if I'm changing lane, I gotta cross the white line. Do that every day. But I know why. Because I got dreads and I'm black and I'm in Garden City. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's just a couple of my experience with, but like I said, I got my wife's sister used to talk to a cop and he gave me a little badge, so now I got to use that, but why it's got to be where I got to show a badge or in my uniform to not, you know what I'm saying, being harassed. So just imagine all the other guys who doesn't have a badge or a TA or some form of uniform that will get them out of certain situations.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like I say, I've become accustomed to it. We shouldn't be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
I remember I had just moved here out of, you know, after the earthquake we came, my brother, my sister, and we moved to North Shore of Long Island, Miller Place. And we were probably like probably 3 of the 10 black kids that are in the school. There's not many black kids in the school. So And I love white people. I gotta tell you, I love white people. So
You better do.
I got right.
Yeah.
Hold up. And so I never thought of, because I mean, for the first 17 years of my life, if we're in Haiti and there's a car passing by, which there would always be cars, like pickup trucks mostly, just have like foreigners just visiting and stuff, and Haitians they go crazy, like, oh, look at this white person, like, look, they're just like, especially kids. I mean, I remember me as kids, I was like, man, I want to talk to them, I want to touch them, I want to just seeing them. But I remember when we first moved to Miller Place, that's why I went to Miller Place High School, but it was an awesome experience, coming in from Haiti, and everyone knew what had taken place in Haiti, the earthquake, and so they were like, wow, we're having kids coming from Haiti, and and this is awesome, so, and we're coming in, and it was literally, I felt like that was the first fresh start for us to be like, wow, this is where we are now, and thank God we're here. But I remember even in the school itself, we've had awesome like kids that were like very just awesome and nice to us, But I remember one of my experiences was with one of the teachers there, but he, I remember I got a recognition for I guess like I always stay after. I'm like I gotta do a lot more reading than the average person, because like this is a second language, maybe like English third language for me. I was like I gotta do whatever I need to pass those classes and stuff. So I would stay after sometimes, but I remember when I get the recognition, there was this time like where the teachers are kind of like saying congratulations to the kids, and they getting hugs and stuff, and this particular teacher would hug every kid that had got recognized, and then when it come to my turn, I went for a hug, and he stopped me right there. He was like, no, I'm not, you don't have to give me hugs. And in my head, I try to believe that it was a personal thing, that I try to believe that it was anything that had to do with the color of my skin, that it was just like, okay, maybe he just didn't want to hug, and I get it. But when after seeing him hugging every kid, and then I went for one, and then he stopped me right there. I mean, I couldn't even see that. I had my teacher who was giving me the recognition, who was sitting there after she saw what happened. She came up after and gave me a hug, and she was a white lady. She was sitting there. She saw what happened. She was like, hey, I want you to know that like we love you, we care about you. And I remember going home that day. I didn't even talk to my dad about it. I just was like, just thinking about what just happened. But it was one of those things where in my mind, I tried to block it. Like, it was like, there's no way this just happened. This guy's not racist, probably, but in my heart, like in my soul, I felt like I have been denied of a hug just because of who I am, and so that was like one of the times where, I felt like, man, I was considered less than, if anything.
Yeah, and it struck me so heavy when you mentioned a couple weeks ago to say I never experienced racism until I moved to the United States.
Yeah.
And coming to the United States with the excitement of a fresh beginning, a new start, and then to experience that, and I know, Marlon, you kind of echoed that as well, moving from Jamaica to the United States.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, in Jamaica, I never experienced racism in the sense that we did have Caucasians in the schools that I went to. You got people from India and stuff, and we all got along. I mean, even to this day, I'm still friends with an Indian guy. He's a professor up in upstate New York right now, and we talked about that sometimes. It was good old days back in Jamaica, and he gets prejudice against him and he's a professor up in upstate New York, but because he's from India, so it's not just a black thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
So but like I go, my first introduction to racism on Long Island was when I moved out here, and I went for a walk to get accustomed to my neighborhood, my new neighborhood, and I went for a walk with my daughter, Myla again, and we walked around the neighborhood, and this lady came up to me, and she started asking me questions, and I'm like, she's like, where you from and stuff like that, and I'm answering, no problem, and some of the kids were playing ball on the side, and they were saying, yo, crazy, call her, I'm not going to call her, but she's whatever. And she was saying some derogatory stuff about another neighbor who's also white. And I'm like, what's up with this lady? And, I don't remember the full detail, but it was like really, and I went home and I was telling my wife and my other daughters and stuff. And, I'll tell you what happened. 2 weeks later, approximately 2 weeks later, she came to my front. I didn't tell her where I lived. She came to my front door and she said, yeah, I did a background check on you.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
my wife was inside sleeping. I said, yeah, I did a I went on the computer. I know what you do. And I'm like, I said, hey, hold up. I didn't want my wife to hear. So I took her outside and I was like, what? You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't, what do you, and she could tell me that I did real estate because I went into that for me. She said, yeah, I got friends in the sheriff department in Riverhead and they did a background check. I'm like, whoa, you believe this? When I call my friends in Queens and stuff and I tell them certain stuff like, they was like, yo, you the one who moved to a white neighborhood. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Why gotta go through all of that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She did a background check on me.
That's crazy.
I know I remember even back in youth group days, you mentioning at times walking by a car and hearing them lock the doors.
Yeah, all the time, like me going into grocery stores, a woman pulling her purse, and as a kid growing up, like I said before, I was around a lot of like Caucasian people. I grew up in that. Like when I was young, when I was in elementary school, I was three of only me, my sisters, and then a gym teacher was the only black people in the school. So, but they were all really welcoming people, and a lot of them changed my life to this day. So I never really had no issues, but so it always confused me of why I get those looks. And even like with your sister Kelsey, me and her would hang out, and it'd be a group of like it'd be like two white girls, and then it was me, Jasmine, Anthony, and we it was a weird group, and we always got looks growing up. So it always confused me, and I was really naive to it as a kid until I started to get older, and then I started get into relationships, and I got into a relationship one time with this girl. And we weren't like in a relationship yet, but we were talking, and so we got deeper, and then one day we started talking, and I was like, well, I want to meet your mom, and she was like, well, that's an issue, and I was like, why? And she was like, because you're black, and I don't think she'd like that, and I was like, okay, well, she doesn't know me, so like, well, why is that? So we've been talking for like 2 or 3 months, and her mother never knew that we were talking, and it bothered me a lot because I knew, and I let it happen. So she ended up one day telling her mom, and she calls me crying, and I'm like, what's wrong? And she's telling me, she was like, it went really bad. I told her, and it honestly, when she told me the story, I almost cried because it made me feel like I was like this. Like I wasn't human, like, cause the questions her mom was asking her, like she was like how are you attracted to them, and like how like I was like an alien or some type of like she was doing something like outlandish, like dating an animal or something. So it hurt me, cause I was like, you don't know who I am. Like I want to be a pastor when I get older. Like, sorry. And it hurt me a lot because it was like I don't know, like I have no problem with you, and I would get it if you met me. And you didn't like the person I was. I would get that, but you don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. You don't know at all. So it hurt me a lot. Mm-hmm. And that was like the second time that happened in a relationship. So it really bothered me a lot for a while, and I had to just go to myself and pray a lot because I started to resent white people. It started to get to the point where I was where I started to judge everyone like that. But I knew that not everyone was like that. So I had to just kind of put my hate to the side and my anger, and kind of just humble myself, because that was just something that really hurt me, because I was like, you don't know who I am, like you don't know me. And another time, I was, as well getting into a relationship with another female, and I met her mom, and I spoke, and I said, and I was really proud, and my mom was raising me really well to know how to speak to people, so I know how to talk to anyone. And so I said, I was like, nice to meet you. I was like, I'm really happy to finally meet you. And she's like, I'll see when we're done. And this was a white woman again, and I was like, okay, whatever. So we go to the movies, everything's fine. And then I found out that she didn't like me because I was driving a nice car. So she thought I was like a drug dealer or something. So she didn't want her daughter dating me because I was driving a nice car, and it wasn't even my car. It was my mom's car at the time. But she just assumed that I was a drug dealer or I was into something like that. So she didn't want. So that relationship didn't go any farther. But it took for a while because I had never experienced that. Like I didn't know that was a thing. When I was like, I thought it was like normal. I was gonna meet your parents.
Yeah.
It was we're gonna sit down, eat, and have fun, and that was it. I never thought in the world that that's how it would be.
Right.
And so it kind of opened my eyes and woke me up to like what really goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know my daughter, I have a 7-year-old, when she was in pre-K, so she was 5, going on 6 at the time, I got a phone call from the school, from the preschool. They wanted me to come down to have a whole conversation. They're like, oh, she's fine, there's nothing, wrong with her, just wanted to talk to you face to face. And I'm like, oh, you think the worst, like, what could have possibly happened? And I go down and they wanted to talk to me because during playtime, and she always plays with all the kids. There was never any issues, so I wouldn't think any of this, but during playtime, she asked to play with another little girl that she always plays with this group of kids, and they said no brown kids allowed. Only white kids can play with us. And I actually know their parents and stuff too. We went to school together.
And how old is you? This isn't a long time ago.
Yeah, she just turned 7 this year.
So this is
was
a few
like
years
a year.
ago.
It was like a year and a half ago. And I know the little girl's parents, as we went to school together. I went to St. Mauritius. It's a very small group of, African American kids that go there, and and I did speak with them. We had a conversation, me and the parents, and because I feel that a lot of times people behave in a way or say things. It's not I don't always agree. It's necessarily that their parents said you should do this. It could be something they watched. It could be, kids are on social media now. They're on YouTube. They're watching videos all the time. You don't know what, I don't know what they were picking up, or if I don't want to believe more so that it was that their parents would teach them that, because I do, know them, and I try to always think the best of people. I love people, no matter what you look like or who you are. I don't judge people based on that. I base them, I make my judgments based on how they behave, based on their heart, how they treat other people.
Yeah.
So, when talking to the parents, they were like, no, I don't know where she got that from, we're so sorry. And I, obviously forgave them, and I still, speak to them because we're all human. But as far as my daughter, now I, as a parent, have to have this conversation with the 5-year-old. She has no idea. She's like, what does that even mean? Why would they say something like that to me? And it really hurts my feelings. And she was crying because my family's very diverse. We have all skin tones in my family, some of my family members are, people like, oh, that's your grandmother. My grandmother looks like a white woman. She's very fair skinned. She has freckles. She has reddish colored hair. You wouldn't think that some people are my family members because we're like a rainbow, and to this day, sometimes she still asks me questions. Like her best friend is a little white girl, which her mother is my best friend. She also comes to, used to come to the church, and she asked me, are we allowed to still say that we're sisters because we're not the same color? When she never would have ever thought that, she's like, we look alike, we look like sisters, and, it's just hard to have that conversation with the child that don't quite understand all the logistics of things yet, just based on being told we can't play together, there's no brown kids are allowed. you know, like what does that even mean? You know, so
Can't even imagine.
it's, you know, it's hard, you know, and I know for me going to a predominantly white school, I was told a lot, you're pretty for a black girl. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's
you're
so
pretty
true.
for a black girl. And I'm like, and I used to not know how to take that. So I used to be like, oh, thank you. Like, and never thought anything of it. Like, you know, and or I had friends that kind of the same type of thing, like that would date guys of color, but then like they would be like, oh, like I gotta break up with him because I can't bring him home. And I used to be like, what do you mean? They're like, well, my parents aren't racist or anything, but you know, you know, they don't like us to date outside of our race. You know, like my grandmother would be really upset, so like we're not allowed to. And you know, some of people I was really close to, and I would sleep over their house, and then like that something like that would come up, and they would be like, "Yo, but we're not racist." And I used to be like, "Oh, okay." Like I was, you know, younger, so you know, but I don't know. I still have hope that, and I do have belief that people, you know, that people can change. You know, so I try not to, you know, harbor on some of the negative things, and you know, it's just it's hard though, you know, to not build up a certain type of thought process or, you know, feeling. But I still, you know, just all you can do is move on and just and think the best and try to, you know, believe in people because
not everyone is like that.
everybody's not like that.
And it
you
sucks
know?
that like those people kind of just kind of make that rap for everyone else. And
Exactly.
and
And
it sucks.
sometimes it's what they're taught or what they learned or what they see or you know, views of other people close to them that they just kind of latch onto, not necessarily learning for themselves or coming to their own opinion of people, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I try not to, I feel like me just judging people based on the way they look would be me being the same way as somebody, you know, teaching that. It's a lack of understanding of sometimes a lack of what they know or understand. Is, you know, people are more afraid of what they don't understand. You know, so
that is so true.
you know, it's more stereotypical, I feel like, when it comes to the color of my skin. Honestly, I really don't think it's necessarily always hate factor just comes into that because they just, you know, you look at me and you see that, you know, I'm brown skinned, so it must be some of the more stereotypical things they know that, you know, you're not educated or you're not, you know, they just sometimes just automatically think those things, you know? But, you know.
Would you say that you feel like, as opposed to being innocent until proven guilty, you're guilty and you have to prove yourself innocent? I mean, it sounds like in a lot of these scenarios, you don't feel like, you're definitely not getting the benefit of the doubt, but it may even be the opposite, that there are assumptions made before someone even talks to you to where you're having to prove that you're not bad or that you're not wrong.
Oh, no, I absolutely agree with that. Should it be like that? No, but I do think that because they're just from statements that have been maybe made. You know, for me personally, at times that like, oh, you're really smart. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, they ask you something and then I speak and then it's like, oh, you know, it's, I thought that, you know.
And I got that a lot as well as a kid, you know, because my mom is huge on us, like, you know, just being able to talk like that, because that, you know, no one wants to have a conversation with someone who can't carry one. And so, like, and I used to read books a lot, and so I used to get that as well as a kid. Like, oh, you talk really well for a black kid. Like, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Or
like, and I hated, like, especially for me, like, growing up, and I dealt with this a lot, and I'm now getting where I understand it, and I don't like it. We're like, oh, we're like, Jordan, you're so white.
Yes.
That makes me very, especially now more than anything, because I'm older now, it makes me very upset, because it's like, no, I'm not. Just because I know how to speak, just because I know how to, you know, to articulate myself well, does not mean
like,
as if white is the
what
standard.
What does that mean? I always say, I'm like, what does that mean? People always say, you sound like a white girl. I'm like, what does that mean? You know, like, and it's not that I'm colorblind, but like, I just, like some of my best friends are not black, you know, they are white, and it's not because of anything other than we connected on a higher level than based on what we look like. It's, you know what I mean? We connect, we're there for each other, you know, we love each other, so that's,
and that's just what it is.
You know, it has nothing to do with anything else. So what does that even, you know, even mean? And you know,
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Like I was just saying, like sometimes even in situations where you're at a restaurant and you're ordering food, even the type of food that you order sometimes,
Yeah.
and you feel like people are like, what? This like white folks food right there. You know, it's
It's
like,
like, what
are you
does
gonna
that
eat?
mean?
Yeah. So yeah, I could definitely like attest to that. Where like anything that you say, because I gotta say this, even in our community, where sometimes when we feel like, when we're having conversations or we're seen with people, like even me being married to, a white girl, like I know those conversations, they have come up, like what, like, are you so white now that like, you can't, but it is not really about that, it's like.
Or is it Britain too black?
Exactly, But it's one of those things where it has nothing to do with race. I feel like sometimes I just see her as Brittany. Like I love Brittany.
Yes.
I want to be with Brittany. Like it's not so much so like like she's white and then I'm black type of thing. But in situations like these, like we're reminded of that. We're like, shoot, like I guess we're different. Like, we're not as one anymore. I guess, so.
Well, even like when we were dating, people would look at us.
Yeah.
And like we would just be like, all right, we're here. It's just us two.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna worry about what everyone else is saying, because and I feel so bad for you, Jordan, because you should not have had to go through that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like it literally breaks my heart, because there are people who do think that way, and it's not fair. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm so thankful that when we first started dating, I'm sure we've talked about it, like it crossed both of our minds, like how will my family take you, how will your family take you, but not communicated it to each other, you know what I mean? I was thinking about how your family would accept me, because I knew right off the bat my family was gonna love you,
and I was thinking the same thing.
That's what I'm saying. So that was that. I'm so thankful we do have that experience, but unfortunately not everybody does.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because even on our first, official date, like that was something that we talked about. We're like, if just being recognizing that, like, hey, we're two different races, and there are people that agree with it, there are people that don't agree with it, and I told you, I think you probably remember, but I was like, even in the church, you'll be surprised how many people don't really, they're not for the interracial marriage. They are like, stay within your race, I'll stay within my race, type of thing. But I remember talking about that because that was something that was important to me, and I felt like it's always in my heart that, like, although we may look different, that like God wants us to be together. And that was like always what I kind of always leaned towards. And I was always like, honestly, like even in situations where it's where I had been prejudged, like people were like, oh wow, he's a black guy, but I always have in my mind, like, get to know me. Why don't you, before you even say anything, before you even tell me to take my hoodie off and stuff, like, just get to know me. Maybe you'll like the person I'm. If you don't, that's fine. But like, get to know me before you make those assumptions. And so, but these were things that were very important to me that we would talk about, and there were times where we, in the beginning of us when we started dating, every time I remember in the beginning, I was like, oh man, okay, well, there you go. We're going to go to restaurants. We're going to go to places where we're going to be stared at, like be ready for that. But then it started happening, and then we're like, okay, wow, it really is happening, So in the beginning I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I think that like I wasn't aware of as much as you were. And like even like everything that you guys are talking about, like these are things that, for lack of a better way to say it, like me as a white person, anyone as a white person, we don't have to think about it. Yeah. And it's something that like we can be there. You know what I mean? We could try to understand it, but we can never fully understand it. But that's why I love that we're doing this, is being able to have these conversations, and like just being able to be honest. And like even when we were dating, like I didn't think that was gonna happen. I was just like, everyone loves each other. I love everyone, and this is how the world is. And you know what? Yeah. The world collapsed on me when I realized that wasn't real. Like, and even we went to Target one time, and we were walking around, and it was just me and him. He was carrying the cart. He was rolling the cart. And then all of a sudden, like, I notice he's being aware of his surroundings, and I'm just like, we're a Target, like, what's the matter? And I was like, babe, I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna go get something, just stay with the cart over here. So he does, and then at that point he noticed a security guard was like watching him, and I was not aware of it. Like, it's just another point of like, I don't have to think about it. He had to think about it. And so he was just standing there. He did nothing wrong, literally nothing wrong. And the guy just kept staring at him, just making like nasty faces at him, and just kind of like have like this attitude, like, I know you're about to do something, man. Like, you know, talking about Rodney, like thinking like Rodney's gonna steal something or whatever. And so anyway, if you want to continue it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him. I didn't really make much of it at first, you know, because I was like, maybe he is, you know, because I used to work at Walmart. One of my first job really was working at Walmart. So like, I used to be helping those security guys, you know, when they're about to, like, they know somebody's stealing. When the moment they head outside the door, that's when they head out there, and they kind of like confront them. So I thought maybe he was waiting for someone. Like, in my head, I was like, maybe he's just watching somebody else, because I've seen it before, but as I'm walking around, I'm waiting for Brittany. I noticed he's staring at me, you know, and then I stopped, and then for a second I was like, no, this is not happening. Like, what's going on? But then I kept walking again, and he kept staring at me. And so one of his coworkers came up to him and started talking to him, and he was pointed at me as they were talking. And I was like, wow. I was like, and I said, can I help you? You know, in a very respectful way, you know. And he didn't respond. I'm talking to him like, we're probably like 10 feet apart at this point, because he was pretty close. He made it very obvious. And so I'm talking to him, I'm like, can I help you? Is everything okay? He didn't respond. And I asked another time, and he ignored me the whole time. And so when Brittany came over, at that point I'm already mad. I even like put on my story. I was like, I couldn't believe what was happening. So I pulled out my phone. I was like, man, I'm at Target right now, and I normally never do this. You know what I'm saying? Because I always want to believe the best in people. I always want to believe that that's not really what's happening. So, but when it was so obvious and I knew what it was, then I was like, man, like, guys, this is, and I posted about it. I said, this is something that goes on, you know, and that was one of the many cases where I've been involved in, where I felt that way, you know. So, but Brittany came over and I was mad, and I said, babe, this is what, you know, this is what's happening. And at first you were like, oh, really? Like, no, really? You know, but then we started walking, and then she realizes what's happening, you know, and it was like I was being profiled, like it was like literally profiling at that point. So, you know, our carts were filled at this point, so we're about to check out. So I pushed. It was later too. They were probably about to close, maybe an hour apart, I guess. But we get to the register, and it's the manager actually that's there, that's bringing people out. And I just talked to the manager. I said, hey, how you doing? You know, respectfully. And I said, do you guys is this usually happening here? I mean, do you have your security guard literally profiling people? Like, this guy's been staring me down. He's been really, right, just like after me for the past half hour pretty much. And she was like, no, don't worry about it. He's just doing his job, you know, like, this has nothing to do with you. And I was like, I'm telling you, this is what he's doing. And she literally was just like, nah, it's not, you know. But then, you know, we checked out, and then and I was like, babe, can you believe this? And we're walking away. As we're done paying for everything, we're walking away, and she's checking out, and the same security guy is waving off, like,
yeah,
and he's just
nasty.
like, yeah,
you better leave.
right.
And it was just like,
you know, and we're looking back. I'm like, babe, can you believe what's happening right now? And so, dude, I got in the car. I was so mad. I was so angry, and I felt like in that moment where, like, I wanted, I don't know, I felt like I wanted to do something, but I felt like the least I could do is just take it, walk away, and let it be. And I felt like so defenseless at this point, where I was like, okay, I think we're just gonna go home, worry about our business. But we got home and we're like, babe, I feel like I have to call this one in, you know, because this was too obvious. It was on camera. Maybe they'll just keep him accountable, you know. That's what we said. So I called in and I talked to the same manager that was at the store. I said, hey, I was just at your store, you know. I talked to the manager and it was the same lady. I said, I was just at your store, you know. I think I would love it if you could maybe look back on your camera, like the recordings, and then see what was going on, because he was really, you know, he was profiling, you know. And she said, yeah, okay, no worries, I'll look into it. So a week had gone past, and we went back to that same, you know, target. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna see him, or I'm probably gonna see that same, you know, manager. But I wanted to see the manager just to ask the manager, hey, what happened? You know, did you, you know, follow up? Yeah, they followed up. And I remembered his name, I remembered her name, and so I asked to see her, and I saw, you know, and they were looking for her, they couldn't find her. She came and I talked, and I asked her, I said, hey, so did you end up, you know, looking into it? Did you see what, you know, what was going on? She was like, oh, actually, no, I forgot to do that. And she...
No, she did.
You said she did?
She looked into it, and they ended up saying, oh yeah, you were too close to the doors, so you made the alarm go off and open.
Oh, right,
and I was
right.
like, Lord have mercy, I know that didn't happen. We were both there, never heard the doors open. Right. Nobody was leaving at that time. So it was just like, you clearly lied about it, and it was just like, they just didn't want to deal with it. Yeah,
that's right. They have those things. It's like right before the exit, where if you end up walking with something, they light up and the alarm goes off.
That's noticeable.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she was like, yeah, because the excuse was like, well, he thought you were about to walk out with the card, and so that's why he was, you know, he had to come up and
that's right.
Yeah, he thought I was like, I never walked out the store with anything, though, you know, and so and he was like, I said, so did you have a talk with him? So apparently their talk was that, like, hey, this is what they thought was happening. Right. But nothing like that happened, you know. So she ended up getting him, told him I was in the store, because apparently she thought maybe I was going to have to call corporate or something. She thought, because I remembered his name and her name and stuff, so. And he ended up coming up to me, you know. We were at the store, he found us, and, you know, he shook my hand, he apologized, you know. And I said, dude, I appreciate you apologizing, you know, but I wish we had a conversation, you know, before you did anything like that. Yeah. But I said, I really appreciate you apologizing, though, you know, and pretty much hoping that it doesn't happen to anybody, or it doesn't have to happen to anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty much, you know, a follow-up, and that was my experience. That was one of those things, one of those situations where I felt like, you know, I was targeted too. So.
What an incredibly impactful message we just heard. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I am just so honored that we got to be part of this very important dialogue around racial reconciliation in this time. And church, we just want to encourage you. Next week, make sure you come back for part 2 of this incredibly important conversation that we're having. And we also want to encourage you in the days between today and next week. Make sure you're staying a part of this conversation. Make sure you're willing to stay at the table and have these hard talks. So church, we love you so much. We hope you have an awesome week and can't wait to see you next Sunday.